On Christmas Eve, Sophia saw her husband leaving with his ex-wife, but when he revealed the reason, her legs gave out. Sophia sat in the middle of the living room, staring at the massive Christmas tree adorned with gold and silver ornaments. The tree was perfect, just like everything else in her life was supposed to be. But it felt empty. The house was silent, except for the gentle ticking of the clock on the wall. The air was cold, not because of the winter outside, but because of the emptiness she felt inside. Sophia got up, her heels clicking on the marble floor, and walked to the window. Outside, snow covered the garden, making everything look pure, untouched. She pulled the shawl tighter around her shoulders, trying to ward off the cold that came from within. Her phone buzzed on the counter. She glanced at it. It was a notification from social media, another post about Amanda. Amanda, always there, hovering like a ghost. Sophia saw a picture of Amanda with a group of friends, smiling confidently. She tried to ignore it, but it was like a splinter in her mind. She turned around as Richard entered the room. He was wearing a perfectly tailored suit, as always. His gaze barely met hers. "Sophia," he said, his voice cool. "The guests are arriving soon. Are you ready?" She nodded, forcing a smile. "Of course." Richard looked at her for a moment, his expression unreadable. Then, without another word, he walked away. Sophia watched him go, feeling a knot form in her stomach. He hadn't even complimented her dress, hadn't even noticed her. She had spent hours making sure she looked perfect. All for him. The guests arrived, and the house filled with laughter and chatter. People moved through the rooms, glasses of champagne in their hands, admiring the decorations. Sophia moved among them, smiling, exchanging pleasantries. But her eyes were always on Richard. She saw him standing by the bar, talking to someone. Amanda. Her heart sank. Amanda was standing too close, laughing at something Richard said. He smiled at her, a smile that Sophia hadn't seen in a long time. Sophia clenched her jaw, trying to keep her composure. "Are you okay?" a voice said beside her. It was Claire, one of her few friends. Sophia forced a smile. "Yes, I'm fine," she said, though her voice lacked conviction. Claire followed her gaze to where Richard and Amanda were standing. She gave Sophia a sympathetic look. "But you don't have to pretend, you know." Sophia swallowed hard, her eyes burning. "I don't want to talk about it." Claire nodded, placing a gentle hand on her arm. "I'm here if you need me." Sophia nodded, grateful, but she couldn't take her eyes off Richard. She watched as he leaned closer to Amanda, whispering something in her ear. Amanda laughed, touching his arm lightly. It was like a knife twisting in Sophia's chest. The evening dragged on, and the guests eventually left. Richard barely spoke to Sophia the entire time. As the door closed behind the last guest, Sophia turned to him. "Richard," she said, her voice quiet. He looked at her, a hint of annoyance in his eyes. "Yes?" She hesitated, then forced herself to speak. "What's going on between you and Amanda?" He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Sophia, don't start. It's just work. She's helping me with some things." Sophia frowned. "Helping with what, exactly?" "You were whispering, laughing. I could see it." Richard shook his head, dismissing her words. "You're overreacting, Sophia. You always do." Sophia's chest tightened. "I'm not overreacting. I know what I saw." He stared at her for a moment, then turned away. "I'm going to bed. We can talk about this some other time." Sophia watched as he walked away, her eyes stinging with tears. She felt her heart break a little more with each step he took. She turned and walked to the large window again, staring out into the darkness. The snow continued to fall, covering the world in white, while inside, her world was crumbling. The next morning, Sophia woke up early. The house was still and quiet. She could hear the wind outside, the faint rustle of the trees. She wrapped herself in a robe and went downstairs. The decorations looked hollow, the lights flickering, almost mocking her. She tried to distract herself by making breakfast, but her hands were shaking. Her mind kept replaying the night before, Richard's indifference, Amanda's confident smile. She felt like she was losing everything, slipping through her fingers. Later that day, Richard was in his office. She knocked softly and stepped inside. He looked up, his expression still distant. "Richard, we need to talk," she said. He sighed, leaning back in his chair. "About what, Sophia?" "About us," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "About Amanda." Richard closed his eyes for a moment, then looked at her. "Sophia, there's nothing to say. Amanda is... she's just part of my life now. We work well together." Sophia's heart sank. "And me? Where do I fit in?" Richard didn't answer. He looked at her for a long moment, then simply said, "I don't know, Sophia." Tears filled her eyes, and she quickly wiped them away. She turned and left the room, her footsteps echoing in the empty hallway. She felt like she was in a nightmare, one that she couldn't wake up from. That night, the house was quiet again. Sophia lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. She could hear Richard in the guest room, the door closed between them. She closed her eyes, feeling her heart ache with every beat. She was alone, truly alone, for the first time since she had married him. The next day was Christmas Eve. Richard was distant, barely looking at her. He told her he was going out for a few hours. Sophia nodded, not asking where he was going. She knew. She spent the day trying to keep herself busy. She wrapped gifts, even though she knew they wouldn't be opened. She tried to cook, but the smell of food made her nauseous. Finally, she sat down on the couch, staring at the Christmas tree. It was late afternoon when she saw them, Richard and Amanda, outside, walking towards Richard's car. Amanda was laughing, her hand on Richard's arm. Richard looked at her, smiling in a way he hadn't smiled at Sophia in years. Sophia felt her legs go weak. She gripped the edge of the couch, trying to steady herself. She watched as Richard opened the car door for Amanda, watched as they drove away, leaving her behind. She sank to the floor, her body shaking with sobs. She felt like she was breaking apart, piece by piece, with no one there to help her pick up the pieces. It was just her, alone, surrounded by the emptiness of a house that wasn't a home. After what felt like hours, she forced herself to stand. She couldn't stay like this. She needed to do something. Anything. She walked to the kitchen and grabbed her phone. She scrolled through her contacts, her hands trembling. She found his name, Ethan. She hadn't talked to him in years, but he had always been kind to her, always been there when no one else was. She hesitated for a moment, then typed a message. "Hi, Ethan. It's Sophia. I know it's been a long time, but I really need a friend right now." She hit send before she could change her mind. A few moments later, her phone buzzed. "Sophia? Of course. I'm here. What do you need?" Sophia felt a small spark of hope. something she hadn't felt in a long time. She typed back quickly. "Can I come see you? I can't be here right now." Ethan's reply was almost immediate. "Of course, come over. I'll be here." Sophia took a deep breath, her heart pounding. She grabbed her coat and her keys. She needed to get out, to leave this place and everything it represented. She walked out of the house, the cold air hitting her face. And for the first time in what felt like forever, she felt like she could breathe. Sophia stood by the window, watching the snow cover the garden outside. It was Christmas Eve, and the world seemed so quiet, so perfect. But inside, her heart felt shattered. Richard was in his office, avoiding her, like he always did when something uncomfortable came up. She knew she couldn't ignore it any longer. She walked through the hallway and knocked gently on the door to his office. After a few moments, Richard opened it, his expression unreadable. He barely looked at her. "We need to talk, Richard," she said, her voice almost a whisper. He sighed, stepping aside to let her in. The room felt cold, the air tense. Richard leaned against his desk, arms crossed. "Oh, what is it, Sophia?" She took a deep breath. "Amanda. You and Amanda. What's going on?" Richard frowned, then looked away, his jaw tightening. "There's nothing to talk about. Amanda is she's just around because we work well together." Sophia's chest tightened. She felt her eyes begin to sting. "Work well together? I saw you two last night, Richard. You were whispering, laughing." "That's not just work." He shook his head, dismissing her. "You're overthinking it. You always do." Sophia swallowed hard. The words cut deep. "I'm not overthinking, Richard. I feel like I'm losing you." Richard stared at her for a moment, then sighed again, rubbing his temples. "Sophia, I don't know how to say this, but maybe you never really fit in here." Sophia felt her heart drop, her entire world beginning to crumble. "What? What do you mean?" Richard finally looked at her, his eyes cold. "I mean, I don't think this is working anymore. I want to be with Amanda. She's always understood me better." Tears welled up in her eyes, and she bit her lip to keep from breaking down. "You're leaving me? Today?" Richard nodded, his voice devoid of emotion. "Yes, I'm sorry, but I've made my decision." Sophia felt her knees go weak. She grabbed onto the back of a chair to steady herself. Her vision blurred, and her throat burned as she tried to speak. "After everything, Richard, you're just going to walk away?" She managed to choke out. He looked at her without a trace of sympathy. "I'm leaving tonight. You can stay here for as long as you need, but I'm not coming back." Sophia felt her heart shatter into a million pieces. She turned around, unable to look at him anymore. Without another word, she walked out of the office, her legs trembling as she made her way to her bedroom. Once inside, she locked the door and collapsed onto the bed, tears streaming down her face. She could hear Richard downstairs, talking on the phone, likely with Amanda. The pain was unbearable. She felt like she was drowning, struggling to breathe under the weight of it all. She lay there for hours, staring at the ceiling, the darkness closing in around her. Her mind raced with questions. What had she done wrong? Why wasn't she enough? How could he leave her so easily? The answers never came. Only more questions, more pain. Desperate for some sort of comfort, Sophia grabbed her phone. She scrolled through her contacts, looking for someone, anyone, who could help her. She found Ethan's name and paused. She hadn't spoken to him in years. They used to be close friends, back in school, before life took them in different directions. Without overthinking, she typed a message. "Hi, Ethan, it's Sophia. I'm sorry to reach out like this, but I really need a friend." She hit send and waited, her heart pounding. It was late, and she wasn't even sure if he would see the message, let alone respond. But a moment later, her phone buzzed. "Sophia, of course. What's going on? Are you okay?" Sophia felt her throat tighten again, but this time, it wasn't from despair, it was from relief. She quickly typed back, "Not really. Can I come see you? I can't be here right now." Ethan's reply was almost immediate. "Yes, come over. I'll be here. Whatever you need." Sophia wiped her eyes, taking a shaky breath. She forced herself up, her body feeling heavy. She grabbed a bag and started throwing some clothes into it. She had to get out of this house, away from the memories, away from Richard. She paused in front of the mirror, staring at her reflection. Her eyes were red, her face pale. She barely recognized herself. With one last look around the room, she turned and walked out, her footsteps echoing through the empty hallway. She didn't look back as she left the house, the door clicking shut behind her. She walked to her car, the cold night air biting at her skin. She shivered as she got inside, gripping the steering wheel tightly. The drive to Ethan's house felt like a blur. She barely noticed the Christmas lights lining the streets, the people bustling about, celebrating a holiday that now felt meaningless to her. All she could think about was getting away, escaping the pain that seemed to follow her every step. When she finally arrived at Ethan's place, she sat in the car for a moment, taking a deep breath. She didn't want to burden him, didn't want to bring her pain into his life. But she had nowhere else to go. She got out of the car and walked to the door. Before she could knock, it opened, and Ethan was standing there, his face filled with concern. "Sophia," he said softly, stepping forward and wrapping her in a hug. Sophia closed her eyes, letting herself sink into the embrace. She hadn't realized how much she needed this. Just someone to hold her, to remind her that she wasn't completely alone. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice breaking. Ethan pulled back, looking at her with gentle eyes. "You don't have to thank me. Come in. Let's get you warm." Sophia nodded, following him inside. The warmth of his house enveloped her, a stark contrast to the cold emptiness she had left behind. She set her bag down and looked around. It was small, cozy, with simple decorations. It felt like a home. Ethan led her to the couch, handing her a blanket. She wrapped it around herself, feeling a little of the tension in her body begin to ease. "Do you want to talk about it?" he asked, sitting beside her. Sophia hesitated, then nodded. She took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly. "Richard, he left me. He's with Amanda now." Ethan's expression darkened, and he shook his head. "I'm so sorry, Sophia." Sophia bit her lip, trying to hold back the tears. "I don't know what to do. I feel like I have nothing left." Ethan reached over, taking her hand in his. "You have me. You're not alone." Sophia looked at him, her eyes brimming with tears. "I don't want to be a burden." Ethan shook his head firmly. "You could never be a burden. You're my friend, Sophia. I care about you." Sophia's chest tightened, and she looked away, trying to steady her breathing. She hadn't felt cared for in so long. It was almost too much to handle. "Thank you," she said again, her voice barely a whisper. Ethan gave her a small smile. "You're staying here, okay? As long as you need." Sophia nodded, her heart feeling a little lighter. It was still broken, still raw, but for the first time in what felt like forever, she felt like she wasn't facing it alone. She looked at Ethan, and for a moment, she allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, things could get better. Sophia stepped into Ethan's house, feeling a mix of relief and unease. It had been years since she last saw him, and here she was, desperate and vulnerable. Ethan welcomed her with a warm smile, gesturing for her to come in. "Hey, you made it," he said, closing the door behind her. Sophia gave him a weak smile. "Yeah, I hope I'm not imposing." "Of course not," Ethan replied. He led her to the living room, where a cozy couch awaited, surrounded by modest Christmas decorations. It was so different from the mansion she had left, but in a way, it was comforting. Sophia sat down, pulling her coat tightly around herself. Ethan disappeared into the kitchen for a moment, returning with 2 mugs of tea. He handed one to her, sitting down beside her. "Thanks," Sophia said, staring into the mug. She could feel the warmth on her hands, a small comfort in the chaos her life had become. Ethan studied her for a moment, then spoke. "So, do you want to talk about what happened?" Sophia hesitated, not sure where to begin. She didn't want to unload everything onto him, but at the same time, she needed someone to listen. She took a shaky breath. "Richard left me," she said quietly, her voice barely audible. Ethan's brows furrowed. "What? Why?" Sophia shrugged, her eyes welling up with tears. "He said I never fit in. He's back with Amanda. I don't know. I just feel like I've lost everything." Ethan reached over, placing a hand on her arm. "I'm so sorry, Sophia. I had no idea things were this bad." Sophia nodded, wiping her eyes. "I tried so hard, Ethan. I did everything for him. But it was never enough. He always found a reason to be somewhere else. Or with someone else." Ethan sighed, shaking his head. "Richard's a fool. You deserve so much better than that." Sophia looked at him, her eyes searching his. "I don't even know what I deserve anymore." Ethan moved closer, his voice gentle. "You deserve to be happy, Sophia. To be with someone who values you, who makes you feel loved." She looked away, her hands trembling slightly. "I don't know if I can trust anyone anymore." Ethan paused, then nodded slowly. "I understand, but I'm here for whatever you need. No pressure, no expectations, just a friend." Sophia felt her chest tighten. It was strange to hear those words. No pressure, no expectations. Richard had always expected so much, demanded so much. She looked back at Ethan, seeing the sincerity in his eyes. "Thank you," she said, her voice cracking. They sat in silence for a while, sipping their tea. It wasn't awkward, just quiet, a moment to breathe. For the first time in what felt like forever, Sophia felt like she could let her guard down. Ethan eventually broke the silence. "You know, I remember you in school. You were always the one who stood up for others, even when things were tough for you." Sophia blinked, surprised. "You remember that?" Ethan smiled. "Of course. You were one of the kindest people I knew. Still are." Sophia felt her cheeks flush, a mix of embarrassment and gratitude. She had forgotten what it felt like to hear something kind about herself. She looked down at her tea, a small smile forming on her lips. "Thanks, Ethan. I needed that," she said. He nodded. "Anytime. And listen, you can stay here as long as you need. There's no rush." Sophia hesitated, then nodded. I appreciate it. I don't know what I'm going to do next. Ethan leaned back, giving her a thoughtful look. Well, you don't need to decide anything right now. Just take it one day at a time. You've been through a lot. Sophia nodded, her heart feeling a little lighter. Maybe she didn't need all the answers right now. Maybe, for once, she could just take things slow. Later that evening, as they sat at the small kitchen table having a simple dinner, Ethan asked her more about what she planned to do in the future. What about your work? He asked. I know you were doing charity work. Is that something you want to keep doing? Sophia thought for a moment. I don't know. I loved it. But with Richard gone, everything feels different. I need to figure out how to support myself. Ethan nodded. I understand. But don't give up on it. You're really good at helping others. I've seen it. Sophia smiled, a warmth spreading through her chest. Thanks. I think I need to find a way to help myself first, though. Ethan chuckled softly. That's fair. And hey, if you ever want to brainstorm or anything, I'm happy to help. I'm no expert, but I know a thing or two about setting things up. Sophia looked at him, a small spark of hope lighting up inside her. Maybe. I think that could be good, actually. Ethan grinned. Good. We'll figure it out together. As the evening drew on, they settled into the living room, the fire crackling softly. Sophia could feel her exhaustion creeping in, the emotional toll of the day catching up with her. Ethan noticed, standing up. Come on, let me show you the guest room. You need some rest. Sophia nodded, following him. He led her down the hallway to a small, cozy room with a bed covered in a warm quilt. She stepped inside, feeling the calmness of the space wash over her. Thank you, Ethan, for everything, she said, her voice sincere. He gave her a gentle smile. Anytime, Sophia. Get some sleep. We'll talk more in the morning. She nodded, watching as he closed the door behind him. She changed into something comfortable and lay down, pulling the blanket over herself. For the first time in a long while, she felt like she could actually sleep without the weight of the world on her shoulders. But as she closed her eyes, her phone buzzed. She hesitated before picking it up. It was a notification. A post from Amanda. Sophia's heart sank as she saw the picture. Amanda and Richard on a beach somewhere, smiling, looking carefree. She turned off her phone, her heart aching again. The tears came before she could stop them, silent and hot against her cheeks. She curled up, clutching the pillow, trying to push the images out of her mind. It felt like everything was crumbling again, just when she had found a small piece of stability. The pain was sharp, but she reminded herself she wasn't alone. Ethan was there. Maybe she could find her way through this, even if it felt impossible at times. With that thought, she finally drifted off to sleep, her heart heavy, but not hopeless. Sophia woke up in the guest room, the morning light filtering through the curtains. The air was crisp, and she could hear the faint sounds of people walking outside. She rubbed her eyes and took a deep breath. It was her first day at Ethan's place, and the reality of her situation came flooding back. She found Ethan in the kitchen, already making coffee. He looked up when she entered, giving her a smile. "Morning! How did you sleep?" Sophia shrugged, sitting down at the small kitchen table. "As well as I could, I guess." Ethan handed her a mug, and they sat in silence for a moment, the warmth of the coffee comforting against her hands. Finally, Ethan spoke. "I was thinking," he began, his voice cautious. "I know things are rough right now, but you're not alone. okay? I'm here for you." Sophia looked at him, a mixture of emotions bubbling up inside her. She appreciated his kindness, but deep down, she felt uneasy about relying on someone again. The fear of being hurt was still too fresh. "You don't have to do this, Ethan," she said, her voice tense. "I mean, I don't want you to feel obligated to help me. I don't want to be anyone's charity case." Ethan frowned, setting his mug down. "Sophia, I'm not helping you because I feel obligated. I'm helping you because I care about you." Sophia looked away, her throat tightening. "But why? Why would you care about me? After all these years? I mean, I know I was important to you once, but that was a long time ago." Ethan hesitated, his eyes searching hers. "Because you were always there for me, even back then. You were kind, and you made me believe in myself when no one else did. You haven't changed, Sophia. You're still that person." Sophia shook her head, tears welling up in her eyes. "I don't feel like that person anymore. I feel broken, like nothing about me is worth anything." Ethan leaned forward, his voice gentle but firm. "You're not broken. You've just been through a lot. But that doesn't mean you're not worth it." Sophia's chest tightened, and she could feel the tears starting to fall. She stood up abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor. "I need some air." She turned and left the kitchen, walking out into the small backyard. The cold air hit her face, and she wrapped her arms around herself, trying to steady her breathing. She hated feeling this way, vulnerable, exposed. She hated that she was depending on someone else, even if it was Ethan. A few minutes later, she heard the door open behind her. Ethan stepped out, keeping his distance. "Look, I didn't mean to push you. I'm sorry." Sophia turned to him, her eyes filled with tears. "It's not your fault, Ethan. It's me. I don't know how to trust anyone anymore. I don't want to get hurt again." Ethan nodded, his expression understanding. "I get it. And I'm not asking you to trust me right away. I just want you to know that I'm here, no matter what." Sophia looked at him, her heart aching. She knew he meant well, but the fear was still there, gnawing at her. She took a shaky breath. "I'm sorry for what I said. I need time." Ethan gave her a small smile. "Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere." They stood there for a moment, the cold air wrapping around them. Finally, Sophia nodded and walked back inside, Ethan following her. She sat down at the kitchen table again, her hands trembling slightly. "I don't know if I can do this," she said quietly. "I don't know if I can let someone in again." Ethan sat across from her, his gaze steady. You don't have to do this alone." Sophia looked at him, her eyes searching his. "Why do you care so much?" Ethan hesitated for a moment, then spoke, his voice quiet. "Because I've always cared about you, Sophia. Even back in school, I wanted to tell you, but I never had the courage. And then life got in the way, and I thought I'd missed my chance." Sophia's heart skipped a beat, her mind reeling. She hadn't expected this. She didn't know how to respond. She looked away, her thoughts a jumbled mess. "Ethan, I don't know what to say," she whispered. Ethan smiled softly. "You don't have to say anything. I just wanted you to know. And I'm not expecting anything from you. I just want you to take care of yourself, whatever that means." Sophia looked back at him, her eyes filled with confusion and gratitude. "Thank you. I don't know if I can handle anything more than friendship right now, but I'm glad you're here." Ethan nodded. "That's enough for me. I'm here, no matter what." They sat in silence, the tension slowly easing. Sophia felt a sense of calm wash over her. Maybe she didn't have all the answers, but she knew one thing. Ethan was someone she could count on. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough for now. The rest of the day passed quietly. They cooked dinner together, laughing over small mistakes, the awkwardness from earlier slowly fading away. Sophia felt a warmth growing between them, something she hadn't felt in a long time. It was fragile, but it was there. As the night drew on, Ethan looked at her, his eyes serious. "Take your time, Sophia. You've been hurt, and I get that. But know that I'm not going anywhere. Whatever you need, whenever you're ready." Sophia nodded, her heart heavy but hopeful. She wasn't ready to dive into anything, but knowing that someone cared about her, genuinely cared, was a start. It was more than she'd had in a long time. Ethan gave her a reassuring smile, and she felt the corners of her lips lift. She still had a long way to go, but maybe, with Ethan by her side, she could start to heal. Ethan and Sophia sat in the kitchen, the small dining table between them. It was Christmas Day, and the morning sun filtered through the window, giving the room a warm glow. Ethan had made breakfast, scrambled eggs, toast, and coffee. It was simple, but it was more than Sophia had eaten in days. She took a bite, trying to focus on the moment rather than the pain still lingering in her chest. Ethan watched her, not saying anything, just letting her be. For once, the silence didn't feel awkward. It was just quiet. Sophia looked up, meeting Ethan's eyes. He gave her a small smile. "Feeling any better today?" She nodded, though it wasn't entirely true. She felt tired, emotionally, physically, but there was a calmness she hadn't felt in a long time. "Yeah, a little. Thanks for breakfast." Ethan shrugged. "It's nothing fancy, but I figured we could use something normal. I don't know about you, but I'm kind of over fancy Christmas dinners." Sophia smiled faintly. "Yeah, me too." They ate in comfortable silence for a while before Ethan spoke again, his voice gentle. "You know, I was thinking, maybe we could do something today. Just get out of the house for a bit. It doesn't have to be anything big. Just a walk, maybe." Sophia hesitated. Part of her wanted to stay inside, to avoid the world and the memories it held. But another part of her, the part that was tired of feeling trapped, wanted to say yes. "Okay," she said finally. "A walk sounds nice." Ethan smiled, his eyes lighting up. "Great. Finish your coffee, and we'll head out." After breakfast, they bundled up in warm coats and scarves, stepping outside into the crisp winter air. The neighborhood was quiet, the streets lined with houses decorated in twinkling lights. It was simple, nothing like the grand decorations at Richard's mansion, but somehow it felt more genuine. They walked in silence for a while, their footsteps crunching in the snow. Sophia took a deep breath, feeling the cold air fill her lungs. It was refreshing, almost cleansing. She glanced at Ethan, who was walking beside her, his hands in his pockets. "Thank you for this," she said quietly. "For everything. I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't been here." Ethan looked at her, his eyes soft. "You don't have to thank me, Sophia. I'm just glad you reached out. I've missed you, you know." Sophia smiled, her heart aching with a mix of emotions. "I've missed you too. I didn't realize how much until now." They continued walking, eventually finding their way to a small park. The trees were bare, their branches covered in a dusting of snow. There was a bench near the edge of the park, and Ethan gestured to it. "Want to sit for a bit?" he asked. Sophia nodded, and they made their way to the bench, sitting down side by side. She pulled her coat tighter around herself, her breath visible in the cold air. Ethan turned to her, his expression serious. "Can I ask you something?" Sophia looked at him, her heart skipping a beat. "Sure. Do you think you'll ever be able to forgive Richard?" he asked, his voice careful. Sophia hesitated, her eyes dropping to her hands. She thought about Richard, about the way he had looked at Amanda, the way he had told her she didn't belong. The pain was still there, raw and real, but there was also a part of her that felt tired of holding on to the anger, the hurt. "I don't know," she said finally. "Maybe one day. But right now, I don't want to think about him. I want to focus on myself, on getting better." Ethan nodded, his eyes understanding. "That's fair, and I think that's the right thing to do. You deserve to be happy, Sophia, and if that means letting go of him, then that's what you should do." Sophia looked at him, her heart swelling with gratitude. "Thank you, Ethan. I don't know if I can ever fully let go, but I want to try." Ethan smiled, reaching over and taking her hand in his. "One day at a time, right?" Sophia nodded, her fingers tightening around his. One day at a time. They sat there for a while, the cold air biting at their cheeks, but neither of them moved. It was a simple moment, but it felt important, like a step forward, however small. Later, back at Ethan's house, they made a small dinner together. It was nothing fancy, just pasta and salad, but it felt like a feast. They laughed over the small things, like Sophia accidentally dropping a spoon into the sauce, or Ethan burning the bread slightly. It was normal, real, and for a few hours, Sophia felt like herself again. As they sat down to eat, Ethan looked across the table at her, his eyes filled with warmth. "You know, I never imagined we'd be here, having Christmas dinner together after all these years." Sophia smiled, her heart feeling lighter. "Yeah, life's funny like that, isn't it?" Ethan nodded. "It really is. But I'm glad we're here. I know it's not the kind of Christmas you expected, but I hope it's okay." Sophia looked around the small kitchen, the soft glow of the Christmas lights in the window, the warmth of the food in front of her. It wasn't what she had expected, but maybe that was a good thing. "It's more than okay, Ethan. It's exactly what I needed." Ethan smiled, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "I'm really glad to hear that." After dinner, they moved to the living room, sitting on the couch with cups of tea. The fire crackled softly in the background, and the warmth filled the space around them. They didn't talk much, just sat together, letting the quiet settle in. After a while, Ethan spoke, his voice low. "Sophia, I know you've been through a lot, and I don't want to push you into anything you're not ready for. But I want you to know that I care about you. I always have." Sophia looked at him, her heart pounding. She could see the sincerity in his eyes, the way he was being careful with his words. It scared her, but it also made her feel something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. "Ethan, I don't know if I'm ready for anything more than this," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "But I care about you too. And I'm really grateful for everything you've done for me." Ethan nodded, his smile gentle. "That's enough for me, Sophia. I just want you to be happy, whatever that means." Sophia felt a lump form in her throat, and she looked away, her eyes stinging. "Thank you. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm glad you're here." Ethan reached over, his hand resting on hers. "I'm not going anywhere." They sat in silence for a moment, the fire casting a warm glow around them. Sophia closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. She still had a long way to go, but maybe, just maybe, she could find her way back to herself. And with Ethan by her side, she felt like she might just be okay. Sophia sat in Ethan's small living room, a notebook open on her lap. Ethan was at the table, scribbling ideas onto sheets of paper. The two of them were deep in thought, planning the project that had been Ethan's idea, something to empower women, to give back, to create something meaningful. Ethan looked up, his brow furrowed. "Okay, so let's focus on the basics first," he said. "What kind of support do you want to offer? Workshops, counseling? Maybe something like skill training?" Sophia nodded, tapping her pen against her notebook. "I think a mix of those things. I mean, there are so many women out there who just need someone to give them a chance, a way to see that they're more than the struggles they've faced." Ethan smiled, nodding in agreement. "Right. We can start small, maybe with just a handful of women. See what they need most and build from there." Sophia sighed, her gaze dropping to her notes. "But we need funding for this. It's not like we can do everything ourselves." Ethan paused, then shrugged. "We'll figure it out. Maybe we can apply for a grant or set up some crowdfunding. It'll be hard, but I know we can do it." Sophia looked up at him, a smile tugging at her lips. "You're always so optimistic." Ethan grinned. "Somebody's gotta be. Plus, I believe in this. I believe in you." Sophia felt her heart warm at his words. She hadn't realized how much she needed someone to believe in her. She nodded. "Okay, let's do this. One step at a time." The rest of the day passed in a blur of planning and discussions. They talked about logistics, about who they needed to reach out to, and what their timeline would look like. It was a lot, but it was also exciting. For the first time in a long time, Sophia felt like she had a purpose beyond her own pain. Later that afternoon, Sophia felt a familiar tension settle in her chest. Amanda, Richard. She knew she couldn't truly move forward until she faced them. She turned to Ethan, her voice hesitant. "Ethan, I think I need to see Richard. I need to talk to him, to close that chapter of my life." Ethan's eyes widened slightly, and he set down his pen. "Are you sure? I mean, you don't have to put yourself through that." Sophia nodded. "I know. But I think I have to. I need to let go of that part of my life. And I can't do that if I just avoid it forever." Ethan studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Okay. If you think it's what you need, I'm here for you. Want me to go with you?" Sophia shook her head. "No. I think I need to do this alone. But thank you." The next day, Sophia found herself standing in front of Richard and Amanda's house. The mansion looked just as grand as she remembered. The decorations still extravagant, the lights still shining bright. But it didn't feel like home. Not anymore. She took a deep breath, her heart pounding as she rang the doorbell. A few moments later, the door opened, and there stood Amanda. She looked surprised, her eyebrows raising as she recognized Sophia. "Sophia?" Amanda said, her voice laced with curiosity. Sophia swallowed hard, forcing herself to stay calm. "Is Richard home? I'd like to talk to both of you." Amanda hesitated for a moment, then nodded, stepping aside to let her in. Sophia walked through the familiar hallway, her chest tightening as memories flooded back. Richard appeared at the top of the stairs, his eyes widening slightly when he saw her. "Sophia," he said, his voice wary. "What are you doing here?" Sophia took a deep breath, standing tall. "I came to talk. I need to say some things before I can move on." Richard glanced at Amanda, then nodded slowly. "Okay. Let's go to the living room." The three of them sat down, an awkward silence settling over the room. Sophia could feel her hands trembling, but she clenched them into fists, steadying herself. She looked at Richard, her eyes locking onto his. "You hurt me, Richard. You made me feel like I wasn't good enough, like I didn't belong. I spent so long trying to be someone I wasn't, just to make you happy. And you never saw me. You never appreciated me," she said, her voice steady despite the emotion welling up inside her. Richard shifted uncomfortably, his gaze dropping to the floor. "Sophia, I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you." Sophia shook her head. "Maybe you didn't, but you did. And I need you to know that I'm not going to let what you did define me anymore. I deserve better than that." Amanda looked at her, her expression softening. "Sophia, I know I was part of what happened. I didn't mean for things to turn out like this." Sophia looked at Amanda, her voice calm. "It's not just about you, Amanda. This is about me finding my own worth, and that doesn't depend on either of you. I'm done with this. I'm done with trying to fit into a world that was never meant for me." She stood up, her heart pounding, her chest feeling lighter than it had in a long time. Ethan stood, walking over to her, his eyes searching hers. "I'm really proud of you, Sophia. That took a lot of courage." Sophia nodded, her eyes welling with tears. "Thank you. I think I'm finally ready to start over. For real this time." Ethan smiled, pulling her into a hug. "I knew you could do it." Sophia closed her eyes, leaning into the embrace. For the first time in a long time, she felt truly free. Free from the past, free from the pain. And as she stood there in Ethan's arms, she knew that her future was hers to create, on her own terms. Sophia woke up to the soft morning light filtering through the window, feeling the warmth of the blankets around her. It had been weeks since she had left Richard, and the difference in her life now was like night and day. She stretched and got out of bed, heading to the kitchen where Ethan was making breakfast. The smell of coffee and toast filled the small kitchen. "Morning," Ethan said, looking up from the stove with a smile. "Morning," Sophia replied, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't felt in a long time. She sat down at the table, watching Ethan move around the kitchen with ease. Everything was so simple here, no grand gestures, no forced smiles, just genuine moments of care. Ethan brought over 2 plates of scrambled eggs and toast, setting one in front of her. "I thought we could go to the community center today, see how we can start getting more people involved in the project." Sophia nodded, taking a bite of her breakfast. "That sounds good. I want to start getting things moving. We've been planning a lot, and I think it's time we take some real action." Ethan smiled, his eyes meeting hers. "I agree, and I think people are going to be really excited about what we're trying to do." After breakfast, they headed out, bundled up in their coats against the winter chill. The community center was only a short walk away, and they made their way there in comfortable silence. Sophia looked around at the neighborhood, taking in the modest houses and small shops. It was nothing like the upscale area she had lived in with Richard, but it felt real. It felt like home. When they arrived at the community center, they were greeted by a woman named Lisa, who ran most of the activities there. She was in her early 50s, with kind eyes and a welcoming smile. Sophia and Ethan had spoken to her before about their project, and today they were here to start making real plans. "Hey, you two," Lisa greeted them warmly. "I'm so glad you came by. I've been thinking about your idea, and I think we can really make something happen here." Sophia smiled, her nerves easing a bit. "Thank you, Lisa. We're excited to get started. We just want to help in any way we can." Lisa nodded, motioning for them to follow her into one of the meeting rooms. They sat down at a small table, and Lisa pulled out some papers. "I've been talking to a few people around here, and there's definitely interest. A lot of the women in this community could really benefit from something like this. Just a place to feel heard, to learn, to grow." Sophia felt her heart swell with hope. This was exactly what she wanted, to make a difference, to help others find their strength. She glanced at Ethan, who gave her an encouraging smile. "We were thinking we could start with some workshops, maybe skills training, maybe some sessions on self-care," Ethan said, leaning forward. "We want to tailor it to what the women here need most." Lisa nodded. "I think that's a great idea. We could start by putting up some flyers, see who's interested, and go from there. I can help with that." Sophia's heart felt lighter as they continued to plan. They spent the next couple of hours discussing logistics, how to gather resources, and the best way to start. By the time they left the community center, Sophia felt a sense of purpose that she hadn't felt in so long. As they walked back home, Ethan looked at her, his eyes filled with pride. "You're really doing this, Sophia. I'm so proud of you." Sophia smiled, her chest swelling with emotion. "I couldn't do it without you, Ethan. You've been my rock through all of this." Ethan reached over, gently squeezing her hand. "We're a team, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else." Later that evening, they sat together in the living room, sipping tea and talking about the day. Sophia felt a warmth spreading through her chest, something she hadn't felt in a long time. It wasn't just about the project. It was about feeling like she belonged, like she was making a difference, like she was finally living her life on her own terms. Her phone buzzed on the coffee table, and she glanced at it, her heart sinking slightly when she saw the name, Richard. She hesitated, her eyes narrowing at the screen. "Is everything okay?" Ethan asked, noticing her change in expression. Sophia looked at him, then at her phone, and shook her head. "It's Richard. He's trying to contact me again." Ethan frowned. "Do you want to talk to him?" Sophia thought for a moment, then shook her head again, setting the phone back down. "No, I don't. There's nothing left to say. I'm moving forward, and he's part of my past." Ethan nodded, his eyes filled with understanding. "Good. You deserve to move forward, without anything holding you back." Sophia smiled, feeling a weight lift from her chest. She knew she was making the right choice. She was finally letting go of the past, finally allowing herself to look to the future without fear. As the days went on, Sophia and Ethan continued to work on their project, spending their mornings at the community center and their evenings together, planning, talking, and just enjoying each other's company. It was during one of those evenings, as they were sitting on the couch, that something shifted between them. Ethan was talking about an idea for a new workshop when he paused, looking at her, his eyes soft. "You know, I really admire you, Sophia. The way you've faced everything, the way you're putting yourself out there again. It's inspiring." Sophia felt her heart skip a beat, her cheeks warming. "Thank you, Ethan. I couldn't have done any of this without you." Ethan smiled, his gaze holding hers. There was a moment of silence, and then, without thinking, they both leaned in. Their lips met in a gentle kiss, and Sophia felt her heart swell with emotion. It was soft, tentative, but it was also real. It was the beginning of something new, something that felt right. When they pulled away, Ethan looked at her, his eyes filled with emotion. "I've wanted to do that for a long time," he admitted, his voice barely a whisper. Sophia smiled, her eyes welling with tears. "Me too." They stayed there, their foreheads resting against each other, the world around them fading away. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't forced. It was just them, two people who had found each other again, who had found hope in each other. The next day, they went back to the community center, and everything felt a little different, a little brighter. They continued their work, involving more people from the community, gaining support, and building something that mattered. And through it all, they leaned on each other, their bond growing stronger with every step they took. Sophia faced moments of doubt, moments when the fear of being hurt again crept in. But Ethan was always there, steady, supportive, reminding her that she didn't have to face anything alone. And for the first time in a long time, she believed it. She believed in him, and she believed in herself. One evening, as they were cleaning up after dinner, Sophia looked at Ethan, her heart full. "You know, I think we're really building something amazing here, not just the project, but us." Ethan smiled, stepping closer and wrapping his arms around her. "Yeah, I think so too. And I wouldn't trade it for anything." Sophia rested her head against his chest, closing her eyes. She still had a long way to go, but with Ethan by her side, she knew she was finally on the right path. Sophia woke up with a sense of excitement. Today felt different, like the beginning of something she had been waiting for. She had decided to invest in herself, and she was ready to take the first step. She looked over at Ethan, still sleeping peacefully beside her, and smiled. Life had changed so much, and for once, it was changing in a way that filled her with hope. She got out of bed quietly, heading to the kitchen to make coffee. As the smell filled the small house, she felt a warmth spread through her chest. It was her favorite part of the day, early morning, just before everything started. She had her thoughts to herself, her plans, her dreams. Ethan walked in, yawning. "Morning," he said, his voice still sleepy. "Morning," Sophia replied, handing him a cup of coffee. "I was thinking of going to that entrepreneurship course I talked about. I think it's time I started investing in myself." Ethan's face lit up, a smile spreading across his lips. "That's amazing, Sophia. I'm really proud of you." Sophia smiled, her heart swelling. "Thank you. I think this is something I need to do for myself. I want to grow, to build something that's mine." Ethan nodded. "You're going to be amazing. I know it." Later that morning, Sophia found herself standing outside a small building downtown. The sign above the door read, "Entrepreneurship for Beginners." She took a deep breath, her heart pounding in her chest. It had been a long time since she'd done something like this, something for herself. She pushed open the door and walked inside. The room was filled with people, all of them looking a little nervous, just like her. Sophia found a seat in the middle, her hands resting on her lap. The instructor, a middle-aged woman with a kind smile, introduced herself and began the class. As the class went on, Sophia found herself getting more and more excited. The instructor talked about starting small, about finding a purpose, about building something meaningful. It was exactly what Sophia needed to hear. She took notes, her mind racing with ideas. When the class ended, she walked out, her heart feeling light. She had a plan now, something to work towards, something that was just hers. She couldn't wait to tell Ethan all about it. Back at the community center, Sophia and Ethan continued their work on the project. The response from the community had been overwhelming. More and more women were coming forward, interested in what they were offering, interested in learning, in growing, in finding their own strength. Sophia led a small workshop that afternoon, teaching a group of women some basic skills for job interviews. She watched as they practiced, their confidence growing with each attempt. It was a small thing, but it was making a difference. She could see it in their eyes, in the way they held themselves a little taller. After the workshop, Ethan came over, his eyes shining with pride. "You were amazing, Sophia. They're really responding to you." Sophia smiled, her heart swelling with emotion. "Thank you. It feels good, to be doing something that matters." Ethan nodded, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "You're changing lives, and you're just getting started." They walked home together, the evening air cool around them. Sophia looked over at Ethan, her heart feeling full. I never thought I'd be here. I never thought I'd be able to let go of all that pain." Ethan looked at her, his eyes soft. "You've come a long way, Sophia, and I'm so proud of you. You're stronger than you know." Sophia smiled, her eyes welling with tears. "I couldn't have done it without you, Ethan. You've been my rock through all of this." Ethan pulled her closer, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "And I always will be." That night, they sat together in the small living room, talking about their future. For the first time, they allowed themselves to dream, together. They talked about their plans for the project, about how they wanted to expand, to help even more people. They talked about their personal goals, their hopes, their dreams. "I want to keep doing this," Sophia said, her voice filled with determination. "I want to keep helping people. But I also want to grow. I want to build something that's mine." Ethan smiled, his eyes shining. "And you will. Whatever you want, we'll make it happen." They toasted to their future with cups of tea, the warmth of the fire filling the room around them. It wasn't grand, it wasn't extravagant, but it was perfect. It was real. And for Sophia, that was all she needed. As the days went on, Sophia continued to invest in herself. She attended her entrepreneurship classes, learning more and more with each session. She worked on the project at the community center, watching as more and more women joined, as their confidence grew, as they found their strength. And through it all, she had Ethan by her side, supporting her, encouraging her, loving her. One evening, as they were sitting on the couch, Ethan turned to her, his eyes serious. "Sophia, I know we've been taking things slow, and I don't want to rush you, but I want you to know that I see a future with you. I want to build a life with you." Sophia looked at him, her heart pounding. She could see the sincerity in his eyes, the love. It scared her. Opening herself up like this, allowing herself to be vulnerable. But it also filled her with hope. "I want that too," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "I want to build a future with you." Ethan smiled, his eyes filled with emotion. He leaned in, pressing a gentle kiss to her lips. It was soft, tender, filled with promise. When they pulled away, Sophia looked at him, her eyes brimming with tears. "I love you, Ethan," she said, her voice trembling. Ethan's eyes shone with tears of his own. "I love you too, Sophia. More than anything." They held each other, the world around them fading away. It wasn't perfect. It was still new, still fragile, but it was real. And for Sophia, that was enough. As Christmas approached once again, Sophia found herself reflecting on everything that had happened. The pain, the heartbreak, the struggle. But she also thought about the growth, the love, the hope. She realized that the past didn't define her, that she was stronger than she had ever known. She looked at Ethan, standing beside her, his eyes filled with love and pride. She smiled, her heart feeling full. This was her life now, a life she had built for herself, a life filled with purpose, with love, with hope. And as she stood there, with Ethan by her side, she knew that the future was hers to create, one day at a time. The morning after Christmas, Sophia and Ethan walked hand in hand through a small park near Ethan's house. Snow covered the ground, and the air was crisp, with their breath visible in the cold. The world around them was still, as if everything had paused for a moment to reflect on the year that had passed. They walked in silence, taking in the quiet beauty of the park. Sophia felt a sense of peace that she hadn't felt in years. The weight that had once pulled her down was gone, replaced with hope and excitement for the future. She glanced at Ethan, his face relaxed, and smiled. They had come a long way, and she was finally ready to start this new chapter. "Do you think we'll always be like this?" Sophia asked, her voice soft. Ethan looked at her, a smile tugging at his lips. "Like what?" "Happy," Sophia replied. "Just content. Together." Ethan paused, then pulled her closer, wrapping his arm around her shoulder. "I hope so. But even if we're not always happy, I know we'll always have each other, and that's enough for me." Sophia nodded, her eyes welling with tears. She looked at the ground, watching their footprints form a trail in the snow behind them. It was a simple image, but it felt symbolic. Each step they took together, side by side, leaving their mark on the world. They found a bench near a small pond, the surface frozen over, and sat down. Ethan took her hand in his thumb gently stroking her knuckles. They watched as a few birds landed on the pond, pecking at the ice, and Sophia felt a warmth spread through her chest. "You know, I think this is the first time I've actually felt good about Christmas," Sophia said, her voice almost a whisper. "Not just pretending, not just going through the motions, man, but actually feeling it." Ethan looked at her, his eyes filled with warmth. "I'm glad. You deserve that, Sophia. You deserve all the happiness in the world." Sophia smiled, a tear slipping down her cheek. She looked at Ethan, her heart swelling with emotion. "And you deserve it too. You've been my rock, Ethan. I don't know what I'd do without you." Ethan leaned in, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead. "You'd be amazing, like you always are. But I'm glad you don't have to do it alone." Sophia rested her head against his shoulder, closing her eyes for a moment. The world around them seemed to fade away, and all that mattered was the warmth of Ethan beside her, the feeling of his arms around her. They sat there for a long time, just enjoying the quiet, the stillness, the sense of being together. Eventually, Ethan shifted, his voice breaking the silence. "You know, I've been thinking about what's next for us." Sophia looked up, her eyes meeting his. "What do you mean?" Ethan smiled, his eyes filled with excitement. "I mean, what do we want to do next? Where do we want to go? What do we want to build together?" Sophia's heart skipped a beat, her mind racing. She hadn't thought much beyond the project at the community center, beyond the classes she was taking. But now, with Ethan by her side, the future felt full of possibilities. "I don't know," she said honestly, "but I know that whatever it is, I want to do it with you." Ethan's smile grew, and he nodded. "Me too. I think we can build something amazing together, Sophia. Not just for ourselves, but for others too." Sophia felt a warmth spread through her chest, her heart filling with hope. She looked out at the frozen pond, her thoughts drifting to the women at the community center, the women who had found their strength, just like she had. "I want to keep helping people," she said, her voice filled with determination. "I want to keep making a difference. I want to build something that matters." Ethan nodded, his eyes filled with pride. "And we will. One step at a time." Sophia smiled, her heart swelling with emotion. She looked at Ethan, her eyes meeting his, and for the first time in a long time, she felt truly at peace. The past was behind her, and the future was wide open, filled with hope and promise. They stood up, their hands still intertwined, and continued walking through the park. The snow crunched beneath their feet, the cold air biting at their cheeks. But it didn't matter. They had each other, and that was enough. As they walked, Sophia thought about everything that had brought her to this moment. The pain, the heartbreak, the struggle. It hadn't been easy, and there had been times when she thought she'd never make it. But now, standing here with Ethan, she knew that every step had been worth it. She looked at him, her heart swelling with love. "I love you, Ethan, more than anything." Ethan smiled, his eyes shining with tears. "I love you too, Sophia. Always." They walked through the park, their footprints trailing behind them, leaving their mark on the snow. It was the beginning of something new, a new chapter, a new story, a new life. And for the first time, Sophia felt ready to embrace it, to face whatever came next, to build a future filled with love, hope, and possibility. As they left the park, the sun began to rise higher in the sky, casting a warm glow over the snow-covered ground. Sophia looked ahead, her heart full, her steps steady. This was her life now, a life she had chosen, a life she had built, a life filled with love. And as she walked beside Ethan, their hands intertwined, she knew that this was just the beginning. The future was theirs, and she couldn't wait to see what it held.